Look at this again. He keeps doing it over and over. How do you stop that one fucking move? I don't know.
No more heroes, it's hero begin to catch on nobody but yourself, nothing less to do.
Travis, it's kill or be killed.
Ow!
This is something I think is very important. Like, it's a very important topic of discussion, not only in the FGC, but in life in general. And it can be a hard lesson for most to learn. So this is why I kind of wanted to speak about it today. And I've done this topic in the past, but I don't think I gave it the justice or discussion that it truly deserved. And I just have more to say about the subject too. So it's something I wanted to bring up. And it's something that affects around 90% of people in the FGC. It's something you can see all over Twitter, all over the internet. And that's ego. Like I said before, it doesn't only affect people in the FGC, but in all genres of life, regardless if you're rich, poor, and other things of that nature. It's just something that we should talk about more. And some people are like, you know what? I don't have an ego, but in the rare case that you don't, you're one of the good ones. But there's a lot of people out there that do. And fighting games specifically recently being in a renaissance, there's more people than ever before playing fighting games. There's more fighting games out right now that are all good than there have been for a very long time. We had Mortal Kombat 1. Well, it started out on a decent note, but it's kind of on a decline right now. We had Tekken 8, which is really good. Street Fighter 6, which is dope. We have Under Night and Birth 2. We have a lot of indie games in the scene as well that are doing really good. And a lot of new people are getting into fighting games right now more than it seems like they've ever have been, because fighting games are getting easier and easier to play. The barrier to entry is lowering dramatically, and a lot of modern fighting games are making the effort to give you the practice tools, the replays, the systems to actually pick these things up and learn, even though they've been out for 10 plus years at this point. And more people getting into fighting games is like a great thing, you know, why wouldn't people like that? But however, it comes with a little bit of a caveat. If you're familiar with the Scroll Quotes page on Twitter, if you guys aren't, it's a page that captures the saltiest, most toxic takes in fighting games. And typically you'll catch in the forums and people's DMs and messages, stuff like that, just people saying the most egregious things to other people and making excuses for why they weren't doing well. Like salt, anger, people getting toxic, basically people blaming everything except themselves for a loss. And it's kind of sad to see, honestly. But, you know, anything from the sun was in my eyes, my feet hurt, my wrists, I haven't rolled them out yet. You know, your character's buttons are too good. Who decided it was a good idea to give King 50 million throws? Which that part is a little bit valid. It could be a little daunting trying to break that man's throws and you don't know the breaks. Plus, we just got more gameplay of the Sparking Zero trailer with Goku and Vegeta going through all their forms, which was pretty cool. I think the only one we didn't see in the trailer is Ultra Instinct. But yeah, when I bring up ego, when I bring up anger in fighting games, I'm not talking about the people who just like playing and mashing buttons, seeing cool stuff fly across the screen and just having a good time. I'm mainly talking about the people both new and old who, no matter what, can't take responsibility for their losses. And when you do that, it's kind of like putting a mental block in your head, subconsciously or consciously, saying that you don't want to get better. Because if you don't do that self-reflection, that internalization, and just take a moment to step back and look at what happened and what you could have done better, that's really what happens, you know? Things like your character is better than mine, all you did was spam, all you did was mash, you only did one combo, there's no skill in that. But when you see people say stuff like that, when they're downplaying their opponent constantly, they don't realize they're downplaying themselves as well. Because when you say like, oh, you only did one thing, you spammed the same move, you just kept spamming the same mistake. Or a series of mistakes that this one option beat everything you did. And you're telling me in that time, you couldn't figure out to either block, try something new, or just sit back and be patient. You know, not everybody's going to be able to figure out everything in a moment, and that's not exactly what I'm saying here. Really just the people who blame their losses on things like those and don't take that moment to be like, okay, well, I could have done something different. You never like fighting games, man? All that button mashing and combos, they tore you apart. You struggle with self-affecting gameplay because I don't know better and it's hard to say what I could have done better. And yeah, I'm gonna get to that too, Wozy, because that's a big part of fighting games. That is a huge part of fighting games. It's big. But like I said before, when you're going against somebody and you see someone, like you see a lot of streamers do it too, where they're constantly downplaying their opponent and saying how trash they are, but they're losing. they're losing, and they're losing bad, like horribly. Like it won't even be close sometimes, most of the time. And that's honestly the hardest part about fighting games, though. Admitting that you're not as good as you thought you were. Like having to realize that, like, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Like, you know, there's tons of people who play at family gatherings, who play with their friends, and they're like, man, I can beat everybody here. The moment I go online and ranked, it's somebody who has the name, you know, like Fried Bagels, and they're touch of deathing me. They're doing a 0 to 100% combo, and there's nothing I can do about it. Or Captain Waffles is coming in here with the king chain throws, and there's nothing I can do to break them. And all of a sudden I'm getting bodied. What do I do? You know, why can I beat my friends and I can't beat, you know, everybody else? Or I'm good enough to beat only my friends, so they don't want to play with me, but the moment I hop on ranked and hop on online and start playing, I can't beat anybody else. It can make for a lonely experience sometimes, man. Watching Max let me know I can do absolutely nothing about how to play fighting games. Wait, oh, that you know absolutely nothing about fighting games. I misread that. It can be like that though, man. I ain't gonna lie, Scorpion from MK10 drove me up a wall. I'll fight anybody else and not care, but a Scorpion spammer gives me a headache. But the part about realizing that there's more for you to learn is that you can always improve. I think that's what people realize about halfway through. It's like once you hit that wall, some people might just give up, but other people are like, okay, well, I don't know about this, this, and this. Like if you go against a Scorpion spammer in Mortal Kombat and he's spamming teleport, you're like, okay, he's spamming teleport. I know what he's doing. I don't have the answer for it. So most people will kind of just drop it then and there and just be like, I'm not gonna fight any Scorpion I see. But if you learn how to beat the teleport, or if you're just patient and block and wait for what he does next, that can open up a new avenue of getting better, of learning, of improving at the matchup, and all of a sudden the character is not as scary as it used to be. But yeah, like that's how it is in fighting games, Lozzy, because after a while when you play them for such a long time, when you're practicing combos, that's both the blessing and the curse of them, because it doesn't take a lot to remember after doing them for so long and after playing for so long. Not even just like so long, but a lot of them aren't nearly as complicated as most people make them out to be. If you want to win a game just using one combo, or not even using combos and just blocking and punching someone in the face, you could win like that. I've done it before. I've seen people do it in tournament. I've seen somebody win a tournament, a major tournament, without using combos. Beat everybody else without using a single like optimal combo, bread and butter string. Like I think his hits were 3 or 4, maybe max. And that wasn't even his main game. Now, the guy who did it was really good, but at the same time, when you think about it, he didn't have to do too much to win. But going forward, though, this is one of the things, too, like I said before, as long as you're playing fighting games, you're constantly self-reflecting. It's not like other games or Siege or League of Legends or Overwatch and stuff like that, where you can say, oh, my support wasn't healing me. When I went in as a tank, they didn't follow up with me. Or in Siege, where it's like, oh, all my teammates died, now I'm 1v5, now I have to go in and just die. Stuff like that. League of Legends, somebody kept dying and feeding the enemy champ, now they're snowballing the game. Fighting games, it's you and that other person, and that's just it. So you don't have anything else to blame but yourself. Occasionally the laggy connection if someone's playing on Wi-Fi, or even then if just the servers aren't stable, yeah, I get that. But most of the time when you're out of excuses like those, people have to find something to blame. They have to find something to blame. Like I said before, when you're playing these games, you're constantly reflecting on your performance, your mistakes, the things you did well, the things that you don't know. And it can be very annoying when you don't know something. It's like being constantly asked something you don't know the answer to when someone's hitting you with a move and you don't know what to do. Which is partially why it feels frustrating. Like, have someone ever asked you a question and you're constantly saying you don't know and they keep asking you, and this isn't their first time doing it? Like, you remember how annoying that is? That's basically what's happening in an interaction in a fighting game you don't know how to beat. And it's even worse when the other person knows you don't know how to answer it. Yo, Gordon, thank you so much for the follow. Highly appreciate that. It was one in particular, plus you're just not patient, you rush down, so I'm just trying to have fun. Know if you lose, it is what it is. I'm gonna eat the salt and throw it on someone else in the next match. Well, that's another way of looking at it too. Like that's a pretty decent mindset to have, Jax. Like if it's something where you're just there to have fun, you're not taking it super seriously. Like, you know, this isn't a conversation for y'all specifically. But I do think there's stuff you can take away from it, regardless of like what your play style is, what you're there in the game for, because everybody can always get better at something. Whether it's mentally, whether it's your inputs, but physically, like your reactions, stuff like that. Because your mindset can make the biggest difference in whether or not you enjoy fighting games. But moving on though, you guys might be like, okay, so if a person has an ego, they're aware that they have an ego, what do they do about it? You know, we recognize the fact that I get angry or I get upset. I'm a little frustrated in most matchups, things like that. What do you do about it? And of course, you probably saw this one coming. The first step is admitting that you're doing something wrong, that something is not working, whether it's you're missing a punish, whether it's you're lacking the knowledge of something, whether you don't know what a character does. Maybe you don't even know fully what your character does. That's the first step, is admitting that you could have done something better, because that'll help you improve as a player. That'll give you something tangible to work towards. When you say like, oh, there's nothing I could have done, like if there's absolutely nothing you could have done, that means, okay, I did everything I possibly could have done at this moment. And sometimes you will have moments like that. I'm not saying that necessarily in itself is a bad thing. Like, I'm not one toxic positive person that's like, oh, you know, you can always improve. If you get angry, that's wrong. Like, no, feeling emotions and getting frustrated, like that's a healthy part of just living in general. It's what you do afterwards that makes the biggest difference, and whether or not it's positive or negative. You could be angry and be like, oh man, like, you know, that really sucked. But at the same time, if you're just like, all right, let me move past that, let me see what I could have done better, like that's what matters the most. What you're feeling in the heat of the moment doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you any less of a player or anything else like that. It's what you do afterwards that determines how good you are. That's the biggest thing. But like I said, when you say there's something I could have done better, it gives you something to improve on, and that gives you something to work towards, which gives you another step forward to solving that issue and solving that problem. Instead of just saying, you know, I suck, or man, I'm trash, or I can't do anything about that. When people say like, oh man, I suck, or I'm not good at fighting games, or I'm bad at this, and this, they're halfway there. They're halfway there. Well, one thing is that self-deprecation, right? We normally try to minimize that as much as possible. But if you're realizing that you're not the best or you're not good, you're halfway there to realizing there's something you can work towards to improve or get better at the thing that you suck at. And that's huge. Some people think they're good and make excuses for the rest of their lives and never get better. Some people are really bad at fighting games and they're like, no, I'm pretty good, and never improve. That's when you really do suck. That's when it's really bad. But like being like I suck and not improving and not doing anything about it is like doing all the work to solve a math problem and stopping just short of writing down a solution. That's the biggest part of that. When you realize there's a problem and you're doing nothing to solve it. Not everybody wants to play fighting games. Not everybody wants to like hop in or get better or get good, and that's completely fine. I'm not saying that if you play fighting games, you automatically have to get better. But I'm saying if you find yourself constantly getting frustrated and being like, I should be able to beat this person, I should be able to beat this guy, then at that time, it's time to see what you could be doing better. It's time to improve. If you're finding yourself constantly saying that and getting upset because you're not as good as you think you should be. Cammy beat me so bad, I got PTSD now when I see him. That means that's it, I'm gonna chill now. Yeah. Like if you're finding yourself like upset, like when you see Azucena in Tekken 8, I've seen some people go, oh my God. Like this character, she keeps talking about coffee and whooping my ass, bro. Like I'm tired of this. She's dancing, she's doing mix-ups, she's twerking on me. She's got a smile on her face. She's rushing me. There's nothing I can do about this. What do I do? At that point, it's time to sit back and actually look at your replays, go into practice mode, and try learning something about the character to try and save yourself. Because at that point, you're just not gonna enjoy the game. But that's huge though. What else was I saying? But that's also part of the solution, you know, not beating yourself up. Not beating yourself up and not getting preemptively angry. Because if you're constantly like self-deprecating, if you're constantly getting down at yourself, if you're constantly being like, I know I should be able to beat this person, then it's becoming more of an emotional response and more of a trigger for anger than it is you actually tangibly believing you could beat this person. Like if you're like, I can beat this person, and you have no idea why, just because you just want to do it just to prove to yourself that you can beat them. Like you have no plan, no idea about the matchup. You're just like, due to how this person is playing, I should be able to win. That's when it's like, okay, it's time to take a step back and reflect on the situation itself and see if you can actually beat this person. If you're just trying to run it back because you just, it's emotionally charging you, or if you can legit beat them and learn something and become a better player out of it. If that's the goal, of course. And like we said before, fighting games they're not a new genre. A lot of them are based on concepts that have been around since before I was even born. So it's like most of the time you're gonna have to deal with people who've been playing for a very long time and can understand how these things work. And it can seem like everybody is already good, but I guarantee you most people you're going against are just as scared, if not as worried as you are. And that's something a lot of people forget. A lot of people focus on themselves so much and they're just like, I'm scared, I'm worried, this person's, they got all their combos down. And the other person on the other side is completely feeling the same thing, but you just can't see it because they're hiding it a little better. Or they have that extra bit of faith to kind of go on and not worry about it as much as you are. And that's something to keep in mind too. Like most of the time your opponents are just as worried about dropping their combos as you are. They might miss a whiff punish, they might not take a throw, and they might be beating themselves up, but you're too busy in your own head, living in it, worrying about what you're doing to even notice their mistakes. So it can seem like they're doing everything right and you're doing everything wrong, but you haven't taken a step back to actually look at what they're doing and why what you're doing is working and why some of the other things that you're doing aren't working. Like if you've been noticing your opponent's been abusing this one move and all of a sudden you get off that punish, that's like, okay, wait, no, this is the answer to beat that, but then you still lose. You're like, oh man, like I suck, I'm so bad. Not acknowledging the fact that you just overcame a hump, a hurdle in your path. It's like, oh man, I was struggling with this thing before, but now I found a solution for it. That could be a small victory for you, and it can lead to you winning the match later on. But if you don't stop to think about that, don't stop to really appreciate how far you've come and how much you've been growing, maybe not just as a player, but as a person, it can detract from so many other things, and you may not ever feel like you've gotten the flowers you deserve. A lot of people need to be kind to themselves, man. But like I said before, focusing on little things like punishing a move you couldn't before, hitting a combo you might have struggled with, taking throws, or simply being patient and not rage arting or doing a raw super where you normally would have. I hope this helps somebody who needed it. I hope this helps you guys, or gets you guys thinking about fighting games more, especially when it comes to learning them. Or if you're someone from the outside looking in, just having a little more insight to how they could work and what people's mindsets are like going into these things.